minute to the show. I mean, I think it's going to be quick. Trying to skip some of this. There's no band, is that right? There's no band. Yeah, there's no band. Yeah, from somebody else. Yeah, but we can ask this closer. We can have another meeting, subcommittee meeting somewhere closer to it. So I'm thinking of asking Kat on the camera and also Stanford. I think Mr. Clerk, tonight is April 23rd, 2024, Public Safety Subcommittee meeting at 5:30. Mr. Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Council New.
Here.
Council Chow.
Here.
Council Yam. Two present.
Oh,
Councilor Yam outside.
Yeah, Council Chow, Council Yam is actually has something going on, and he's here, but he's going to have to step out a little bit. With us also, Mr. Clerk, we have Councilor Rita Mercier and Superintendent of Police, Superintendent Hudon. Yep, instead of Greg. This is what brings us here tonight is around a couple issues here. One has to do with computer-aided dispatch, CAT, in the police cruisers. That's the first item on the agenda. My colleague here, subcommittee, like to say anything before I turn it to Superintendent Hudon. Superintendent Hudon, please go ahead.
Thank you, councilors, and thank you for having me here tonight. So as I reported to the council probably about a month or so ago regarding the cruiser computers and the workings thereof, we estimated that it would be about a 10-week turnaround to get the Larimore systems up and running in the cruiser computers. I got an update from my people this morning regarding it. They have done all the build out, all the software installations in all the cruisers, which are 40 cruiser computers as well as 40 iPads for our various detectives and gang unit personnel, as well as some of our NRU officers. And what they've run into is a couple of issues with some of the software connectivity. They're expecting that some of these issues will be resolved over the next 2 weeks as they work through them, and that the full rollout of the cruiser computers should be completed in that 2-week period.
Any question from my colleague here?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Yam.
Yep. Superintendent, do you have an estimate time that this CAT will be fully activated and used?
Yes, Councilor, thank you. So we're actually, one of the issues that we're looking at is not so much as with the CAD, computer-aided dispatching, but some of the issues in the Larimore modules, such as our accident reporting system. There was an update with the state-mandated crash reporting system that we had to do, and there was a little bit of a licensing issue that we've resolved. And now that that's getting done, we expect within the 2 weeks that the Larimore, which is accessing through the city network, which will allow them CAD access and report writing capabilities, will be functional.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Yam. Councilor Chow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank the Chief for being here to present the report. This is very, very important information for us to have the meeting for the public to be aware of some of the public safety protocol that we are doing. I just have a couple questions, Chief. One, you mentioned that you have 40 cruisers equipped with CAT, and also separately assume different the cruisers that don't have the CAT system that have 40 iPads. How are the two devices work? Do they have the same function capability, software like on the iPad to report the actual reports, or are they more limited?
So thank you, Counselor. Yes, a lot of the functionality will be the same. Generally speaking, the detectives don't need to be writing accident reports from their cruisers. They're able to go back to their offices and where they can access the desktop versions. It would be very similar functionality-wise. They would have access to the Larimore, and detectives would tend to use it for video recording, photograph it, evidence, different things like that. And like I said, they generally could go back to their offices and write reports and do the things they need to do that way. The cruisers would have all the functionality as a desktop in an office. That's their mobile office, and that's why they need that functionality. It allows them to stay on their route, access the information that's in-house in our Larimore CAD RMS system, and that's what that's going to allow them to do.
Thank you, Chief. Just to follow up on that, I apologize, I'm losing my voice a little bit from the weekend, but I hope people can hear me okay. You mentioned that the Larimore system, they take action reports. Are these the only type of reports when cruisers on duty that they report from the scene of accidents back to the headquarters? Or are they any type of calls when the police officers are out there on any type of calls, any type of reports?
Correct, Counselor. Yes, thank you. So there's different reports that officers are required to do: accident reports, incident reports, arrest reports. Those will all be able to be done within their computer system in their cruiser.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
no
sir.
more questions.
Thank you, Councilor Chow. Also want to recognize Councilor Erica Cheers is here. Councilor Yam, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, the computer system the police department use, will that be an independent system from the city of Lowell? Because, we had incident back in April of last year, so then it will affect all of that. Would that be an independent system from the city?
So, as best I can describe it, I'm not an IT person. This is under the city system within the police department, which ultimately would fall under the city system. We have worked extensively with the city MIS department to make sure that all security has been upgraded and meets the city's stringent requirements.
To follow up, that I understand is under the umbrella as an MIS. However, will that be affected if the city computer incident that happened last year then will cripple the police system? Do you know? That's my concern.
I appreciate the question, Counselor. I don't think I could answer that intelligently. What I could say is that I believe this remote desktop environment is on its own server environment, and I don't know how that ties into other services. I believe it's walled off from other areas of the city.
Thank you, Chief.
Councilor Murphy, any question? Okay. Councilor Kuchia, this is around the issue of computer dispatch. Any question?
Thank you,
Go ahead.
Chairman Noon. Just a quick question. We saw a reorganization chart that put the MIS person from your department under the guidance of MIS here. Would that have an effect on this, without you having oversight versus the city side having oversight over that employee?
Thank you, Counselor. I don't believe that would have any impact. I think ultimately, as far as how the computers are used, that would still fall under me. And we, again, work very closely with the city MIS department to make sure that we're following all of their protocols, and that's where we get our direction from anyway. So it's a matter of structure of who's answering to who. I don't think it's going to have any impact.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kuchia. I also, Chief, around these issues, understand that your MIS staff will be falling under the city. To using the computer aid dispatch, one has to be CORE certified and all that, right? Because you have to go through CORE. Only the officers can do that because using that system.
So there's two separate systems at play here. There is the one which is access to CGIS, which is what we've had all along, which is a different firewall login, and you're correct, Counselor, would need to be CORE certified to use that system to run any information. The separate system is through the Larimore, which is through the city system. And I don't believe that requires the Corey access, but obviously that can be limited. Every module can be limited as to who sees what in that whole system.
I am very happy to hear that you are now closer to the full use of computer aid dispatch. You said 2 weeks. I know that this is much needed by your staff, especially the patrolmen and women. Is more efficiency for them as well as resource for them in terms of looking up offenders or individual that they respond to, a background and whatnot. So I'm happy to hear that. Please keep us informed, updated on it. 2 weeks from now, you can just submit it to the manager, to the full council, so that, hey, look, the CAT system is running. That will be really good for us. Any other question around this? Go ahead, Councilor Chow.
Just a follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a follow-up, Chief. I know that the crew has been using, IPAD's been using it. What have they heard from the officers that have been using the CAD? Have they said like it's been saving a lot of time? Have it been much easier on their workload in terms of, they can do the report even before they head back to the station? What have you heard about the experience? If you could share that with us so that way the public can know, how this being engaged, how it's being engaged, and how useful it has been.
So having access to the CAD in the cruisers is you've hit all the major topics right off the bat. It gives them the ability to see. So there's an actual dispatch screen. So if they're given a call, they can actually see where the call is, the address, the time of the call, any notes that the dispatcher may have put into it. That's very, very helpful to an officer who's responding to a call to get any additional information that may be written down that might have accidentally been omitted during a verbal transmission. So that's very, very helpful. And being able to, as you said, Counselor, to look up a name in a history, how many contacts we've had prior, maybe not even running them through the CJIS system, but just our in-house records to see if anybody has dealt with them in the recent past is also very, very helpful to officers. So as we move forward, I do want to thank the council and the manager for their support and the financial support to get this project moving forward. I think it's going to be vital for the officers and very, very helpful to them.
On that note, Chief, as they look into the future, so to speak, do you foresee that we might be getting more funding to purchase more systems to increase it from 40 to, I don't know, how many do you need for the police system?
So I don't anticipate at this point. I think that the 40 that we have going into the cruisers covers all of our frontline cars and a majority of our backup cars that are not necessarily 24 hours a day, but are out maybe for 1 or 2 shifts. And we have tried to think about the future as far as being able to transfer equipment from one vehicle to a new vehicle as we try to rotate our fleet and keep that up and running and modern as well. So we are looking at those things, and the things that have to change would be like antennas, and some of the cabling and things like that would have to be updated and changed. But we are budgeting for that, and we plan on making that happen as we need to. But we don't anticipate needing anything else for probably the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilor, I do know that we had this system all along. It was pulled after the cyber attack and also other issue. That's where it was pulled. But it was not completely pull out. Special unit like gang unit and narcotic unit still have it. Yep. So now that we have this back installed, is good for the officers out there. When call come into dispatcher's address and stuff, not going to get mixed up because the officers will see it right there on the screen, direct them to where they're supposed to go. And also, it helps in terms of saving time, not missing where they're supposed to go. Also, that one can look up that individual, whether or not he or she has record. Previous call, domestic sexual assault, whatever. That's where it's helpful. And also helpful is that officer can write a report then and there. They don't have to come back to the precinct to do so. So I'm happy to hear that it's going to get rolled out completely in 2 weeks. And I know that the cruisers, men and women out there, it's going to be really happy to hear this and to see this happen. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Not on the agenda, actually, it's the body camera. It was installed back in February 2023. I know that a couple weeks ago you mentioned that you were 85% there in terms of everyone. You have approximately 20-something, 15-something% of the officers that are having body camera. In fact, I see you have one on you.
Yes, Counselor.
Could you report on that, where we at on it?
Sure. Thank you, Counselor. I appreciate the opportunity. So you're correct. Last year in 2023, we began the pilot program to the body-worn camera program. And what we did was we had a cohort of approximately 30 officers. We had two different cohorts of 30 officers that we tested the body-worn camera with to make sure that everything rolled out in a steady way, right? We wanted to make sure that the policy was working with what officers were doing in the field. And so we did that until April 5th of 2024, when we had a full rollout department-wide. Currently, we have about 211 body-worn cameras issued, and as you pointed out, Counselor, I am wearing my body-worn camera as well. It's in sleep mode, so.
It's not on, right?
It's not on right now.
Good.
And so we did have some initial data during the pilot program of the body-worn camera. And again, last year we also had the cyber incident, so this wasn't a full year of data like we had hoped. We are missing several months that we weren't able to gather the data, but we estimated that we had approximately, just from the 60 officers that did wear the body-worn camera, over 16,000 video segments that were collected. Some of that was used and some of it was not. Some of it pertained to active cases that we have, and some of it was not used in active cases. So the next year really is going to be where we start to look at the data internally, and we're going to look, we had a good conversation today, where over the next year we're going to look at the number of internal affairs complaints that come in and see if there's any discernible difference between prior year data. We're going to look at the number of record requests that come in. We're going to look at the number of requests from the district attorney's office regarding their asking for body-worn camera, which they are routinely doing at this point. On every case, they're asking to see if there is any body-worn camera video available. And we're also going to look at some of the statistics as to whether or not some of the cases more cases are being dismissed, or fewer cases might be being dismissed where there might be some video evidence. So the next year is going to be very interesting to see what the data point to, and we'll be happy to report back once we get some of that data moving forward.
Councilor Yam, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, I have a few questions regarding that. From the resident point of view, they are concerned about the privacy issues. In the same way, this body cam also is a protection of the police officer to show that they do their job. So number 3, the question is that how do we maintain and store the video clip? Is that will be a cloud-based storage, and who has access to that? All of these issues that people who are watching right now need to know, and if you don't mind, kind of explain the privacy issues, the protection of the police officers, because some police officer may not like to have one. That's why you have this the rollout last year, on a volunteer basis. And number 3, how do we maintain that video and for security reasons, and who can access that? Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Counselor, for the question. So the videos are secured and they are cloud-based through the vendor. Our vendor is Axon, and they have software and it's stored in a cloud-based environment. There are administrators. Our body-worn camera unit has administrative rights to access all body-worn camera. Any video that's collected is retained in accordance with the public records laws. And depending on the type of case or the type of video, that would guide the length of retention. In other words, if it's a training video, it might only be retained for 180 days. There are some videos, some classifications of videos, which will be retained for the lifetime. And it falls anywhere in between. It could be 3 years, 7 years. It depends on the classification of the video and what it was taken in conjunction with.
If I may follow up, when you say classification, who determined the classification of the video, whether it's a criminal, domestic, and others? You know, certain video you mentioned that you store for 180 days and some are longer. And then the last question is, the first question was the privacy issues, that if the officer respond to, say, a domestic violence at home, whoever at the home do not want to have their video or their name and stuff like that. How do we resolve, as a police officer, the privacy issues? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Counselor, for the question. So at the outset of most interactions, the officer will advise the party that they're interacting with that there is a body-worn camera and we are recording. That's delineated in our policy. And again, that's when it's feasible to do so. There may be some emergent situations where the officer forgets to turn it on or turns it on late, or doesn't have an opportunity to advise the person that they're being recorded. If the police do end up having to go into a person's home, again, we would hope that that advisement would be given. And if the party does object to being recorded, it's not a requirement for the officer to turn it off, but we have spoken to our officer to be sensitive to that. And if they do choose to turn it off, to just make a note while they're on camera saying, we've had this conversation and I'm turning off my body-worn camera. There are some very sensitive conversations that are had. And as long as they're documenting why they're turning it off, it's completely reasonable and within the policy.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. It's similar to Miranda warning, so we have to let the resident knows, the people know that you are being recorded. So if they object, and I appreciate your explanation that the officer can make the judgment, even though the resident may object to it. So that means the officer have to turn it off, even though the officer feel that it is important to maintain, to record that situation, because it could be backfire on the police officer being accused of using excessive force and stuff like that. Can the officer override the request of the people that responds to?
Yes, Counselor. In some situations, that would be appropriate for them to disregard that request to turn it off. The whole point of the body-worn camera is for transparency and to show the interaction. Oftentimes, the scenarios that I'm thinking of where they may want to turn it off are sensitive sexual assault investigations inside people's homes. If there's a witness that doesn't feel comfortable, those are the types of situations. If there's a confrontational person that's in front of them that says, no, I want that turned off, I would think the officer's judgment would be to keep the camera rolling just for transparency purposes, for exactly what you said, for their protection and the person's protection.
Thank you, Chief.
Councilor Murcia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Superintendent, these videos from the camera, they are admissible in court?
Yes, Counselor.
Oh, they are? Oh.
That would ultimately be a determination for the judge. There may be situations that I'm not aware of where they may disallow certain evidence. But as far as I'm aware, yes, most body-worn camera.
Thank you. I didn't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murcia. Councilor Chow. Thank you. Chief, around the issues of body cameras, is every man and woman well trained in terms of the policy regarding, when to turn it on and in certain situations that you not turn it off?
So every one of our officers attended training with Sergeant Bill Florence and Detective Carlos Mercado. They're the backbone of our body-worn camera unit. They have been here since the inception of it. They are well-versed in the policy. They have collaborated on the policy with us, and they trained every single officer on the functioning of the body-worn camera as well as the policy.
Quick.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Chair, but one thing I just want to thank you and your department for willing to equip this. This is to also protect the police officer from being accused of various things that we have heard, in the media. So I really commended that, and then hopefully next year the whole department-wise will be implemented, and then hopefully we'll use it for the protection of our officer. Thank you, Chief.
I recognize Councilor Kuchia.
Thank you, Chairman Noon. A couple of things on the video from a police officer. Isn't it their right to video? Don't they have the right? Because the dash cam runs, and if it's running, you're not going to run back to your car because someone told you to shut it off. Don't they have the right to video? It's in public?
If it's in public. When I was referring to, some people may ask to turn it off if you're entering their residence for, like I said, some sensitive investigation.
So the clarification is if it's not in public, you can ask for it to be shut off, but if it's in public, then there's no right to have it shut off.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't get that piece. I don't know if anyone else did. But the other question would also be, when I know that, are you still short-staffed at the police department?
We are.
How many are we down?
So as of today, we have 29 vacancies at the police department, and that's not including officers that are out in long-term injury.
So how long does it take for an officer when they come in to release the video? And do they have to come in early, or how do they?
So per the policy, and again, it'll vary, but most often at the end of their shift, the officer will come in and dock their body-worn camera. And as soon as they dock it, everything gets uploaded automatically. There are situations for some of us administrative people who don't really have a lot of recordings where we may dock it once a week to make sure that it's fully charged and operational and just uploaded with any updates that come through the system.
So when you say upload or dock it, it just means uploading. Docking means uploading the footage from it. So if there's an incident that happens, does an officer have to immediately bring it in and dock it, upload the stuff? Does it rise to a certain length? I don't know any of this information, so that's why I just asked these questions.
No, that's an excellent question, Counselor. Thank you. So what happens is, as officers are out, normal course of an 8-hour shift, they may stop cars, they may go to calls, and anything where they activate their camera, they're calling that into the dispatch, and dispatch creates an event number, and we have a program in place with this vendor that is called auto tagging, where they can go back and reference that tagging, that particular video, which will also alert the body-worn camera unit if that video needs to be referenced for later, for sharing with the DA's office or a public records request later on. And so that will get uploaded to the system when they dock it once after their shift is completed. If they need immediate access, they can also bring it in, and we have software which is on the phone where they can actually look and see what they've just recorded if they needed it immediately, or they could ask a supervisor who also has administrative rights to pull that video off it. The docking basically uploads it to the main system where they have access through the body-worn camera system, and that would happen again at the end of their shifts.
I know at one point you had to go to tough books because everything was getting broken. If they're in a scuffle or something, how rugged is this body camera? Is it something that's rugged? Is it something that, I don't know anything about it, so I'm just asking. Is it rugged enough to take a lot of abuse?
So
or is it something that...
A lot of officers, mine is obviously administrative. I have it held on by a magnet. A lot of officers have the camera, which I'd love to hand you and show you. They have that connected to their outer vest carrier with a mole system, which is extremely rugged. In the event that any of the cameras are damaged, we have several spares that are ready to be deployed. And the body-worn camera unit would contact the vendor and figure out what is wrong with the camera and what needs to be replaced. So,
Thank you. Councilor Kuchia, anything else? Councilor Chow, any question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chief, for allowing us to touch that camera, the body-worn camera. It's very small, very compact, looks very, very sturdy. Just for clarity, the technology for this camera for recording and download only, even though you are able to access the download right away if you need to. There's no option for live streaming at all. Is that correct? If a police would be on duty, something happened, I guess one of it could be maybe accidental streaming, or maybe could there be a situation where it could be so dangerous or could need the eyes or the help of fellow officers back at the station? Would they be able to live stream that at all?
No, they wouldn't be able to. The short answer is no, and we did look into that. If the scenario came to us was, what if there's an officer down and we don't know their location? Can we remotely turn on their camera and see it where we are, like at our computer station? And the answer was no. They're not capable of doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Chow. Chief, you mentioned about the DA requests in all cases. At this point, do you have any idea in terms of the success rate, in terms of the prosecution in cases using the camera, the body camera?
I don't have that data, Counselor. Thank you for the question. What I do have is that of the 16,000 videos that we had, there were approximately 41%, or I'm sorry, during the pilot program, we received 863 requests from the district attorney's office for body-worn camera. Of those 863 requests for the videos, we only had video in about 41% of those. Obviously, it was the pilot program, so not all the officers had them. And I don't have any data yet as to whether the dispositions of those cases, whether the body-worn camera helped or didn't help.
It would be interesting to get that report because, having the body cameras, not only that you have the report of the officers, but also you have the cameras, and that's kind of forcing offenders to plead, right? And so it saves time, but also a successful rate in terms of prosecution is high. With that, would you believe?
I would agree with you, Counselor, and thank you. And that's some of the data that I think I would like to see over the course of the next year, is whether more or less cases are being found in our favor.
Right. Okay. Any other question on this issue, Council? The next will be staffing. I think Councilor Kuchias has brought it up a little bit. Staffing and recruiting. I know that people are leaving and retiring. So what is your plan on that? You mentioned that right now we have 29 vacancy. What's your plan in terms of recruiting, and not only that, recruiting the 29, but also looking forward to try to replace those who are retired? What's your plan?
Well, thank you, Counselor. I'm actually encouraged. We began the hiring process back in July when the new civil service list first was published. We've been going through the hiring process, which includes backgrounds, investigations, medical exams, psychological exams, initial physical exams. We just recently, a week ago, had our pre-academy physical exam, and we are slated to begin our police academy on May 13th. We were authorized by the city manager's office to hire 20 officers. We did lose several several candidates throughout the course of the background and hiring process. We are slated to have 16 new officers coming on. They would be sworn in right before the academy. Of that 16, we do have 2 that are already certified police officers, which they would then go through a modified PTO program and would be on the street a little bit quicker than somebody that has to complete the full academy and then go through a full PTO program. We also do have 1 officer who is currently in a police academy who was coming back from a disability injury, and he is expected to graduate on May 3rd. And we are expecting that he will also go through a modified PTO program, and we're expecting to have those 3 officers on the street by mid-June, which will certainly help for the summer. And then the academy will last 23 weeks, and we should, I hate to say, but history tends to suggest that we may lose 1 or 2 candidates throughout the course of the police academy, whether it be for academics or physical reasons. But hopefully they'll all stick around, and we'll get 14 to graduate from the police academy. And then by January or February of next year, once they complete their full PTO, they would be be on the street and be solo officers. Part of the plan, there is current legislation pending down at the State House that would give us an opportunity for an alternate pathway to hire if that legislation passes, which the last update that we received could come April or May. If that gets through the legislature, that would open up our police department to being having an avenue to hire already trained police officers, which would save us a ton of time from the process of going through the whole hiring cycle. If they're already trained, we'd have to do a quick background. We could expedite the whole process and get them on the street much quicker. And to that end, the recruiting never stops. We're constantly trying to do outreach, whether it be at Middlesex Community College, UMass Lowell, having our partnerships. We have our youth services. We're trying to constantly reach out to the youth and maybe plant the seed in their head at a young age that this might be something that they want to do down the road with our Student Police Academy and all the positive things that our SROs interact with the students on a daily basis. So it's a constant thing of getting a good messaging out there to a wide range of people, and we're excited to get the process moving and get staffed.
When do you expect to fully staff the 29, to hide that 29 vacancy, fill that, and when do you expect that to happen?
Council, I don't know that we would ever get to full capacity just because we're constantly going through attrition.
Okay.
With people retiring at different times. There's no requirement for people to give us advance notice for when they're retiring or when they're leaving. So I don't know that we would ever hit that full number. It's certainly a goal. I would be happy with, instead of being 30 officers short, I'd be happy with being 5 or 10 short, and just trying to maintain that level of staffing. That would be a huge bonus for the department and for the city.
Okay. Councilor Chow, any question for the chief?
questions.
Councilor Jam, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, when you said the legislation at the State House is pending, does it mean to allow the police and the fire department bypass the civil service exam, so this way the police department and the fire department can hire it directly and then train the officer locally, like what we have now? The City of Lowell has the training center on Middlesex Street. That's my first question. I have one more.
So thank you, Council. To answer that question, I don't know that it would bypass. We're still going through the legislation and how it would affect us. We're having meetings now so that should this pass, we're ready to go with our alternative pathway, which we have to look at whether they have to have taken the civil service test, which we don't believe they have to have. And just as an aside, while you had me thinking about it, we also have the cadet program, and 2 of our current cadets are going to be attending the police academy starting May 13th, in which case, once they start, we'll be reposting for 3 new cadets. So that was a very successful program, and that it's helpful to give us a gauge on the caliber and character of the candidates going forward, and 2 good kids. So the alternative pathway, getting back to your original question, may allow us to do that non-civil service list hiring. And it will also change, it looks like it's going to change the definition of residency, which would be like a 10 or 12 mile radius rather than being citywide. So there's a lot to look at.
Yeah. Follow-up questions is to, you mentioned that you got approval from the city manager's office to hire 20 more police officers. Are those officers will be using the current budget in the police department to hire the 20? And then the follow-up question on top of that, we are in the season of looking at the 2025 city budget.
Mm-hmm.
Would you are looking to increase some budget to staff and for the police department? So those are 2-pronged questions, Chief.
Thank you, Councilor. Our personnel is budgeted for 250 officers. That's what we base our fully staffed number as, is 250. I would not be asking for more to fund that. I would be asking to level fund that staffing level. And they are budgeted for the fiscal 2024 year, and we will be asking for the same budget in fiscal 25.
The reason I'm asking because, personally, I want to make sure that our police officer, fire department are fully staffed. We as a councilor want to provide you with the tools so that you can do your job to protect our cities and the residents. So that's the question that I'm asking, because right now we are looking at the 2025 city budget. So thank you. I'm glad to hear that there's a level funding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jam. That said, I want to take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Clerk, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief.